Welcome back, everyone. Well, the idea was to take these bamboo pieces and make a really colorful platter. Initially, what I had thought was I'll take some good tape and put it on the bottom of each one of these pieces and stand them up and pour epoxy resin in them and pour more around them. Let me say right off the bat, this is not the way to make sure your epoxy stays in the bamboo, as you will see coming up very soon. But this is what I did, so I thought I would show you. So I grouped them all together, and the idea was, oh, I'll just pull these apart, and when it sets, and then arrange them in the platter the way I liked, and I'll have this really cool thing. And not exactly how it worked out. Everything was going great, and seemed like all the pieces of bamboo were holding the epoxy resin just fine. Clearly, that's not how it ended up. So yeah, I came back to find everything had spilled out. And this is actually after topping them off several times so they at least would be full. You'll see behind this container where I'm mixing up my epoxy resin that's going to go around the bamboo. Everything looks all pretty. I did not show the footage of the 5 to 6 hours it took to actually chip off the blue epoxy resin from the bamboo and hand sand every one of these pieces to get the epoxy resin and the red tape off of the bamboo. Anyway, don't do what I did. Hey everyone, well today we're going to finally get this piece on the lathe that I've been preparing for about the last month or so, and I'm really excited to see if we can get a nice platter out of this. The idea would be to shape it up right about to the edge of these larger bamboo pieces, so when you're looking at the outside we'll be able to see the blue of the resin there. And then just make this a nice shallow platter. So anyway, that's the game plan. Let's get rolling. So this piece started off just great. Of course, lots of epoxy resin, so lots of chip out. But that's okay, that can all get smoothed up later. But it did present some challenges once I got it turned around, which you will see as we go forward. It was really fun though to kind of stop, look, see if I needed to take a little bit more. The idea was to be able to expose all the rings of the bamboo, and when I got to the sides here, decide, how much to take off, how much to leave on, so I would still see the sides of those large bamboo pieces. What was planned to be a nice platter is ultimately, as you'll see, going to turn into a little bit more of a plate. But I was pleased how it came out. You'll see that coming up. Shear scraping, most of the work I did was with a 1/2-inch bowl gouge. The carbide tools were not working as well as I had expected, so I ended up using the conventional tools a whole lot more. Going to establish a tenon here so I can turn this around and be able to work on the inside. I learned a lot doing this piece. This was my first attempt at doing anything like this. If I were to do this again, I would have not put a tenon on the bottom because I was going to be going so shallow on the inside. I would have put a waste block on the bottom, and that way I wouldn't have lost any of that depth. But, you know, live and learn. It's just a little isopropyl alcohol, make sure I got all the dust off, and also see if I could get a nice first look at what this is going to look like when it's finished. Time to turn it around and start leveling that wonderful top. Lots of fun. Really just took my time and tried to take very, very light cuts until I could get down to one solid surface. And it actually did not take that long, just made sure to keep my 1/2-inch bowl gouge nice and sharp and take it easy. Seemed like it took forever to get this to a nice flat top to where I could even start dishing this out or hollowing. But that's just probably me being impatient. So I knew when I was doing this that I needed to sand the outside of each piece of bamboo to make sure that it adhered, or the epoxy resin adhered to the bamboo. You also need to sand the inside of each piece, in my opinion, because every single one of those blue dots at one point or another, when I was just flattening the surface or actually kind of dishing and hollowing it out, came loose. And I had to stop, glue it up on the inside, get it as level as I could, return it. It was really a pain. One of them flew about 40 feet away, took about half an hour to find it. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, sand the outside and sand the inside of your bamboo to make sure all the epoxy resin adheres to them. Going to start kind of dishing this out, making my nice shallow platter design on the inside, and getting to what will be a little bit more of my final shape. As I move forward, I end up kind of switching over to a 3/8-inch bowl gouge because I can get just a little bit cleaner, slower cuts with that. The 1/2-inch bowl gouge wants to be a little bit more aggressive. So you'll see me switch to that here and there. Again, you're not seeing all the times that I stop and, oh, there's another loose one, there's another loose one. It all works out in the end, but boy, oh boy, if I had thought about that one thing, would have saved myself a whole lot of time. All in all, this was not a very difficult turn, with the exception of the blue pieces popping out all over the place. It cooperated very, very well. I obviously just made sure that the epoxy resin was very cured, and it worked out great. But like with most of the turnings, you know, don't get aggressive. Take your time. Stop and check. Make sure you're where you need to be, and adjust as you go. Time to get that tailstock gone and work on the very center so we can get to some sanding and finish this piece up. Get to what will be the final look. Lots of fun just kind of exposing the, oh, and here's another one. Exposing the bamboo pieces and making sure that all the features are going to show. Doing some finish cuts with that 3/8 inch bull gouge. Get that as clean as possible and hopefully reduce my sanding by doing that. Time to put a little sandpaper on it and see if we can get it to a finished form. Much of this was done by hand because of all the little blue dots being loose and having to be resecured, so it's okay. Little fine steel wool, medium Scotch pad, and fine Scotch pad. To kind of smooth it out nicely. Sanding paste toward the end. Give us an even smoother surface, obviously. You can see that circle in the middle, which I do not like at all, was where I had cut in for my tenon, and why I said I would, when I do this again, I'll use a waste block so we don't see that. I did ultimately refill that with orange epoxy resin so it's not so pronounced, but bothered the heck out of me. Thank you everybody for watching. Finished photos are coming up, and I will see you again soon.